And now, in this moment, I invite each and every one of you just to experience a little love and be that open channel. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, breathing in the love and light that surrounds you. And as you release the breath, release all that no longer serves you. Go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath in, breathing in love, breathing in light, breathing in oxygen, breathing in life itself. And as you release this breath, just allow your body to relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on the broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude and saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Now we have friends in the room today from the four corners of the earth who we met online in different classes here. It's wonderful to have you here. I'm not going to call your names in case you didn't tell your families you were traveling or hiding out or something. It's like whenever there's a day baseball game or something on TV and they pan the crowd, you always see somebody dive under their seat because they're supposed to be at work, you know. But this is a call out to those of you who are out there in the world and in our online book studies and classes and programs, Holmes Institute, CSL, and our local offerings through Creative Life. Come down and see us. Y'all come on down. And it's a call out, too, to those of you at home who used to occupy chairs in this center, and it's been long enough. Okay, we've been open 2.5 years now since COVID. Okay, so it's long enough. You come down and you see us and bring some food. Okay? Things happen in a very strange way, especially when you believe that things happen in a very strange way. Things tend to follow the expectation set that we have. So I had a call this week. We're going to have a guest here next week who I've not met. It was that person's host who actually email, wasn't a call, it was an email, contacted me. And we're having a guest next week who is making a study of a woman who was an English mystic, a figure in English mysticism, who was born, I think, 9 years later than the woman English mystic I've been doing a series on this month. And this woman who's coming to visit had no idea that I'd been doing a series on this other person named Evelyn Underhill this month. In fact, it wasn't even her idea to come here, but her hosts. She's coming from England, or is, I guess, already here, and it's her host in this country. So it's like some ideas need to meet up, and they chose this turf. They chose this room to meet up, and what an honor that is, you know, that they get to connect on this God's little acre. So when things happen like that, you got to wonder, you know, maybe there's, I don't know, one mind. It contains everything in it, and this is how it's expressing itself. So Evelyn Underhill has been our study this month. Not so much her. It's never really about the person. It's about their ideas. And in her two books, Practical Mysticism and The Golden Sequence, and we have copies of both, I think, across the way over here, and especially Practical Mysticism, the point that she's been trying to get across to us is that if you'll stop wanting things so much, slow down the acquisitive, frantic nature of contemporary life. Bearing in mind she's writing this 110 years ago. If you'll relax a little and listen, pay attention, you will hear the angelic choir. You will experience the union of the soul with its source. But if you're focused entirely on what you have to do and how you have to do it and when and how much you're going to get paid for it and all the rest of it, all sorts of magical things are going on that you miss because you're in that sort of hamster cage of productivity that 110 years ago was no less frantic than it is today. So she says, slow down, get still, be quiet. If you want to know more about who she is, there's several ways you can do this. One is they're posting stuff right now in the comments on Facebook that if you're in the room you can read later. Another is you can Google her, Evelyn Underhill. It's spelled the way it sounds. And you can read about her background and her interests and so on. But this point won't leave me alone, that the mystic idea of oneness is found in the space between our thoughts. And I heard somebody else once say that, and I think it was Deepak Chopra, but I'm not entirely sure. In the space between our thoughts and the space between our longings and our desires and even our intentions and our goals and all of this stuff that we're taught to do, in the space between that there is absolute stone cold silence. And in that silence, the self reverberates. It echoes in that silence back to itself, and it reminds us of who we are with nothing added or taken away. Now, you hear this put another way in science of mind, that you're not getting ready to be one with God. You're not preparing to be a fully vested spiritual being. You already are. If you weren't already, you couldn't be. And, nothing could be heaped on you that would make you that. It would be pretense. It would be show. So we're already there. So we hear this in the Science of Mind teaching. We hear it in the teaching of the great spiritual masters of the ages. And we hear it principally in the stillness of the self. We go into the self and we get still and we say, show me who I am. And I've been on this kick, with you this more than a month, really. It goes back into the 2 months on Emerson. This idea of the I am becoming, that you are the I am, which is complete within itself, and at the same time it's becoming an experience that it's never had before. And to do that, it needs you, which is why you're here, which is why I'm here, is so that Spirit, God, the source, can have an experience of itself that it's never had before. And it's pretty amazing that it's never had such an experience before, because it's been around a really long time. Through lots and lots of beings just on this earth that we know of, and who knows where else. And there are still experiences this thing has not had of itself until today. Until today. Through you. Some of them are kind of tiny. They're almost unmeasurable, but not to it. It knows all within itself. I mean, you ever have a day that's pretty much like the day before? You get into a routine, and if it's different, it's like it's raining or something. I mean, it's a really trivial kind of difference to it. Well, it's still a different nuance of experience that you've never been down that road before, and you've never had the thoughts in your head, even though many of them seem the same. You know something more today than you did yesterday. I don't care if you didn't leave the house. I don't care if those of you who are watching today don't leave the house. Got to give you a hard time about that again. You don't leave the house. You're still having a different experience. There's a slightly different thread of thoughts running through your mind than you had ever before. And because it's new to you, it's new to that which is. It's new to the one life. And so it is not exactly growing, because it's infinite. It's not exactly prolonging itself because it's eternal. It's developing, I think, an intricacy that it's never had, a level of detail within itself based on the experiences that we're having. You see? Now, she goes into this in great detail, and so do some other people I've been reading, because, again, there are no accidents in the books that fall off the shelf when you're interested in one line of thought. They either support it or defeat it, one or the other, but they relate to it in some way. But this whole idea that the observation of an experience creates the quality of the experience, to the extent that you can actually kind of overwrite the direct experience by virtue of you can actually kind of overwrite the event by virtue of the experience, the intensity of the experience that you're having of it. Does that make sense? That's very badly put. I realize that. But what I'm trying to get across here is like let's say you listen to a song. We've been down this road before too. Do you listen to a song and all of a sudden you're weeping, all of a sudden your heart is open and all like that? You're not really having an experience of the song, are you? You're having an experience of a core memory. You're having an experience of where you were the first time you heard that song or what was going on or so on. Same with art. Same with a beautiful day like today. Same with anything. Same with people. And pretty soon you do enough of this stuff, there seems to be no incoming authentic experience. They're just emotional triggers. That's why she's saying step back. Step back from the question, what does this mean for me? What does this mean for me? Hush. Fall silent. Ask not what this means for you. In order to have an experience of the thing as its direct, unmediated, unscripted self. Can we do this all the time? Of course not. But now and then, which is all that mystical experience asks of us. It's all that science of mind asks us. I get this question all the time. Do I have to be happy all the time? Do I have to be optimistic all the time? Is that what I'm... No, you don't. Read Ernest Holmes. He had his mopes. He writes, particularly in this new book that's just come out, we're going to do a couple of months on the end of the year, Ernest Holmes at the Silmar. He had his mood swings. Okay? He got grumpy. He got petulant. Why? Because he was human, for crying out loud. And he had a real, full, rich life. Also, he was a leader. He had a lot of responsibilities. A lot of people looked to him for things. There's pressure. There's stress. What is it? Stress and what were y'all singing earlier? Too blessed to be stressed. Yeah, well, every now and then you're just too stressed to be blessed. So, no, we're not asked to do this all the time. We're asked to do this when we pray. We're asked to do this in the spiritual time that we carve out in order to do what we call spiritual mind treatment work. That's when we're called on to be optimistic. In other words, not pray the problem. Not describe this in this whiny kind of voice to God, oh, I've got this miserable thing and blah, 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 because that's not prayer. Well, I mean, it kind of is because everything is, but it's not effective prayer, is it? No, it just digs the hole deeper. So we're called on to bring up a spirit of optimism at those times, but not necessarily to carry this thing with us every minute of every day. Some people, by nature, are more optimistic than others. Some people are more, like introvert, extrovert, outgoing, more contemplative. Everybody has a style. And nothing about spirituality says that style has to be plastered over or made uniform or anything else. Instead, it's just to take time to get quiet. She's appending meditation, or what she calls contemplation, onto prayer. Prayer typically is you need something, or somebody needs something, and you're saying something about that, in prayer. Meditation is you're listening. You're not saying anything. You're just listening. And what are you listening to? Well, rather than listening to the long list of things that you should be doing instead of listening right now, rather than listening to the long list of needs that you have that may or may not be met, she suggests listen to the silence that is God. Listen to the silence that is God. And in that you will discover more of yourself. What of yourself will you discover? Your true nature you'll discover. Let's see, let me give you a direct quote here. You will at last discover that there is something within you behind the life of desire which you can recollect, gather up, and make effective. You can recollect. That's an old-fashioned word for remember. You can remember. Yeah, this is kind of familiar. That's what you find in the silence. There's a familiarity there. I remember this. See, when you were a little kid, you didn't want a lot of stuff, did you? You didn't comparison shop. You didn't have all of this, inventory of things in life. No, very basic needs. Very basic needs. Love being the main one. Also food, being changed, that kind of thing. Very pragmatic things, but mainly it was the feeling of love and safety and caring and so on. And so you get to a place where you remember that. You remember being in this world and not being in a state of need or acquisition or desire. Just simply taking each moment as it comes. Let me tell you, folks, and you know this, all of you know this, people spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to take workshops on living in the now, on living in the moment. It's a lot easier than that. With all due respect to the people who put on those workshops, it's a lot easier than that. Sit down and be quiet, okay? And you'll be in the now, and you'll be in the now, and you'll be in the next now, and you'll be in the next now. And when you think, oh, what am I going to do? But what am I going to do if 3 weeks from next Tuesday, this and this? Then go to the source. Then go to the source and say, tell me who I am. And as Sandy Newkirk, who's out there watching, always says, tell me who I am and tell me whose I am. Remind me whose I am. Remind me what's got me, what's holding me, what's providing for me, provided I do my work. Now, I wanted to bring up today, because I think this is kind of interesting, when people ask, well, what is it, when you say I'm going to discover more about myself, I'm going to meet myself and so on, what exactly does that look like? Well, it's different for everybody, but there was something I read this week that I thought you might find helpful, and it had to do with this. There's a professor who has written a book, actually the second of 2 books on this subject, and this one really apparently nails the subject. And I have not read the book. I just saw an article about this professor, an interview with this professor who's written this book. And I want to read it. And the book is the professor's contention. I can't give you the title offhand. I'm sorry, I don't remember it. But you'll find it anyway. You already have. You already know what I'm going to say. You know what I'm going to say next Sunday.
We haven't got enough information yet.
They are the most amazing research team on earth right here. I'm telling you, okay? So this book, this professor has written this book, and it's about the idea that there is no such thing as free will. Have you seen this? I heard somebody murmur. Okay, Apple News, everybody reads the same, yeah. So there's no such thing. He has studied humans and other species for a very long time. He's come to the conclusion there's no such thing as free will. Well, being a passionate advocate of free will and teaching the power of choice, this got my attention. And I wanted to see what this guy had to say. So I read the interview with him, and a lot of the interview is him kind of backing and filling, saying, I didn't mean to anger anybody. So I guess he's gotten some pretty, I remember when social media was just bumper stickers. But anyway, he's gotten some pushback, shall we say, on this. But I wanted to see his thinking here. If not free will, what is it? Well, a lot of times people look at it, if it's not free will, it must be predestination. God out there pulling the strings and everything's all set up. It's just like if you say to somebody, well, I'm not a Christian, then you must be an atheist. Because Christianity is clearly the only religion on the planet. Well, no, it's more nuanced than that quite a bit. And so what he is saying it seems to me, is that every choice you make is predicated on a previous choice. And that I can agree with. And it's tracking those choices back. That's what you can do when you sit in the silent now. Track those choices back. It says you sit at your desk and you pick up a pen. You say, I have agency here. I have free will. I can do anything. I can reach for that pen or not reach for that pen. And his response is, why do you have a pen? Where did the pen come from? Why is the pen on there? Why do you have a desk? How did any of this happen that you've come to this point? And if you choose not to pick up the pen so as to defeat the idea of inevitability, are you not, in fact, somehow confirming inevitability? That everything is based on what has come before is not a problem most of the time, unless what came before was toxic and didn't work and has predicated future thought and experience, has set it up in such a way is I don't pick up the pen to write, I pick it up to harm myself with it, or I pick it up to throw it at you. You see? There's a pattern of thought and a pattern of belief that leads us to make the decisions that we do. And he said this really out there kind of thing. He said a drunk driver. If alcoholism is a disease and epilepsy is a disease, which epilepsy was once thought to be a character weakness or demonic possession, okay? And alcoholism, we know, was once thought to be a character weakness and maybe demonic possession, I don't know, you go far enough back. Okay, if you're driving a car and you have an epileptic seizure at the wheel and you wreck the car, that's an accident. If you get drunk and wreck the car, it's a crime. And his thinking is, he's not exactly saying change the laws, but he's saying investigate the philosophical background of this. The people are not responsible for their behavior at all because of the inevitability of choice in the moment. Well, I have a problem with that. I have a big problem with that. Because I believe that people can change. And finally, at the end of this interview, he says, well, yeah, people can change, but they can only change within, and I lost interest. And it went to 3 to people can only change within the parameters of blah, blah, blah. I have seen people change everything about themselves, and so have you. I have seen people grow self-esteem on the spot who were told they'd never have any, who were shown they'd never have any. I have seen people throw off restrictions and limitations and everything else and absolutely soar through this life. And where are they getting that? But from within themselves and the doorway of the divine within. So I'm interested in the philosophy of this whole thing because I do think that a lot of stuff tracks back. And so my point in this is that this is what you can find when you do this inner work, is why you're doing. Do you ever ask yourself this? Why am I doing this? Every day I get up and do, reminds me of, what is it, Foghorn Leghorn? Every day the same, right? Every day the same thing? Yeah. Why am I doing this? Because at some point somebody, or me myself, wound me up with a key on the back, and pushed me out there. And I've just kept going because nothing else has interfered. Nothing else has redirected me. We do this. We run these, we used to call them tapes. Back when we had tapes. We have tapes that go on, right? Now I don't know, digital files or something, but, we run on these scripts that we have embedded within ourselves based on prior experience. Somebody came along at some point and said, you're no good at that, are you? And we thought, no, God, I'm not. Now I've been found out. I can never do this again, whatever this is. I have to hide out from this and run from this. And the way life, the screwy kind of way that life works in having fun with us, is the thing that we're trying to hide out from keeps showing up. keeps presenting itself. You're not very, for example, you're not very good at speaking to groups of people, are you? Oh, God, I've been found out, now I can't ever speak to people. Here come the invitations to speak to people, whether it's a toast at a wedding or something, you know, you're at work, you're pushed out there, and you're pushed out there on the stage to confront the very thing that you think you're not good at, which is how you learn to get better at it and push through that and change and change. And why is it anybody said we weren't good at something? And more to the point is, why is it we believe them? Why is it we believe them? Because we thought we didn't have a choice. And maybe that's what it all circles back to in the long run. The problem is we don't think we have a choice. So when I look at this world and this suffering world, and I've been reading about the same things you've been reading about, and I've been reading about Sudan. And I look at this world and I think, what can I do? What can I pray about that's not taking sides, that's not manipulative, that's not coercive, that's really in integrity, and not having talked to the parties or all of the parties involved in this to know what everybody says they want, like you take orders around a table. So what do I have it all reduced to? It's this. It's that everybody knows they are at choice. Because they are. Because they are. That this is what we hear from the silence of the being within ourselves. You're a choice. Where will you go today? What will you do today? I had one more thing to read you here. Ascending the mountains of self-knowledge and throwing aside your superfluous luggage as you go, you shall at last arrive at the point which they call the summit of the spirit, where your true self can forge a path deeper into the heart of reality. 110 years ago, they called it luggage. It was probably steamer trunks, her being English and all. Nowadays, we call it baggage. You've heard of emotional baggage. You throw aside the emotional baggage. You throw it over the cliff, you know. You let this go, the stuff that you carried around. You know what Ernest Holmes called that? The dead corpse. I told you he had mood swings. No, that's pretty grim, isn't it? He says there's a dead corpse that we carry around through, of condemnation, okay, of shame and fear and guilt and all of this. And one day you're like, why am I doing this? Why am I still carrying this thing? And you throw it over the side, you know. To get into the heart of reality, or as she puts it, the transcendent fact, F-A-C-T, the transcendent fact of I am. So let's know together now. There is one life, one power, one presence, pure spirit, everywhere, manifesting, everywhere, radiant, everywhere. Just being what it is. And receiving us where we are and how we are. Joyful, happy, grieving, miserable, anywhere in between. Receiving us when we don't know how we are. We're not sure what we feel. We're overwhelmed with it. This one takes us as it finds us. Therefore, there's nothing to need or hide from or fear. There's nothing fundamental to change about the self in order to belong, to be loved, to be worthy. There's a releasing instead, a letting go. There are some things to unlearn. The emotional burdens that have been heaped on us by others who were suffering, that we took on feeling it was our responsibility when in fact it was not. That our responsibility is to see that every being, past, present, and future, is a powerful creative instrument of the one life. Each one has within themselves everything necessary to shine. And of course, we know this best about others in the world when we know it first about ourselves. That we are the I am. Becoming what we will. Not sure what that looks like, but okay with it. It will unfold how it does, and there will be surprises along the way. There will be astonishments along the way. And we can't wait to get started on the next phase of the journey. It begins right this moment, for this knowing, and its manifestation in form. Everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
So first of all, as we come to giving time, Daniel always reminds you that we are truly grateful for everything that you give to us. And she also reminds you that it costs money to keep this place going. I mean, it really does. It's a really nice campus, and it costs money to keep it going. And we have lots of expenses, so we appreciate all of your contributions. Yes, Marissa. If there's anybody here for the first time, would you please hold your hand up? Great. We're going to give you a little package of information, whether you want it or not. And finally, when we come to the end, a whole bunch of us, hold hands, hug, and so on. Some people really don't like to do that. So if somebody says they don't want to do it, please respect that. It's really great when you can do that. So now say with me, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and
My
so it
responsibilities.
is.
Now, the reason why I brought my phone up here is because my reading this morning was titled Give Without Fear. She was a divine science. It was Bernadette, F. Bernadette, and I don't remember the rest of her name, her last name, but you can go back and watch it and find out. She quoted James Russell Lowell. I have no idea who James Russell Lowell is, other than when I Googled him really quick to get this quote. He's a romantic American poet he was born in 1819. So probably in with, Emerson and all of them. But the quote she used, and she was talking about giving without fear, is she doth little kindnesses which most leave undone. What do you hear when you hear that? Random acts of kindness? She doth little kindnesses which most leave undone. So I'm going to go into treatment in that attitude. What can we do to make the world a better place? Little acts of kindness. Random acts of kindness. And in the idea of giving without fear, what Bernadette was reminding us is that we are connected to an infinite source of love, of kindness, of compassion, of grace, of mercy. The more you give, the more that flows through you. The more that flows through you, the more you benefit. And all of the people around you benefit from. So little kindnesses. Because it's the little kindnesses that change the world. There's a Gandalf quote about that. Yes, I'm a Lord of the Rings nerd. So, I invite you consciously into the sacred. It is where we live all of the time. But I'm inviting you to consciously step into the sacred, to consciously plug into that infinite source. And know with me that there is one presence, one power, one life, one love. We live that life. That power flows through us. We are divine channels for that love. And we are that presence. And in that presence, all things are possible. So I'm knowing for each and every one of you the infinite connection. That love flows through you, not at a trickle, but at a torrent. And as that love flows through you, and it washes everything clean, so too does it do that for every living being in the world. So that we wake up and know who we are. Know that we are beloved children of the One. And that we are at choice. And that any time we can choose anew. And we can change like that. And there is nothing between us and that source. May the veil be rendered. Let the love flow through. And I know this with all of the gratitude in my being, because gratitude is just another word for love. And I am grateful for a teaching that teaches me this love, that teaches me who I am, and teaches me to see you for who you are. Brilliant, brilliant lights, divine children, channels of love. And I am grateful for this community. I am grateful for our practitioners, our ministers, our musicians. I am grateful for each and every one of you. And as you travel back to where you came from, I'm knowing safe journeys. And I relax and I release with love into law. And so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
So it is.
And so it is.